Hi everyone. I wanted to make a little tutorial video to help you through Project 1 and give you a few pointers on how you can set up your Weebly site with the appropriate materials that you'll need for this activity. So I'm starting out by being on my Weebly site. If you look at Project 1, one of the first things that you're going to do is you need to create a new page on your Weebly site for Project 1. To do that, I'm going to go up into the Pages tab in Weebly, and I'm going to make a new page. And I'll call this page Project 1. This is a page that I actually want to display in my navigation, so I want to make sure that it does show up. I'll hit the Edit button, and now I've got this blank page where I can create my web page. Now for this assignment, you'll recall that there are a couple different parts to this project. Part 1 is where we're going to create a technology lesson that has a couple components to it. One of the components is the lesson plan itself for teachers. This second component that it will have is it will have a page for students where the activity that they'll be engaged with during the lesson plan will be outlined. And the third aspect of this will be an area on that student page where you link to either a blog or a wiki so that you can engage with some communication between students working through some of the things that we talked about last week. So let's get started and I'll show you this. I've already loosely kind of created my lesson, so let's show you. The first thing that it says that you need is you need to get in and grab the state core standard and objectives. So to do that, I'm going to go to the UEN website, and for me, I'm going to go, when I go to UEN, I'm going to go to Utah Core Curriculum. It's found in the upper left corner of the screen. My lesson today is going to be from 5th grade social studies. And as I go through these different marks and standards and objectives, I'm going to find one that matches up with what I'm doing. I want to do a little lesson here on Martin Luther King Jr. We just had the holiday celebrating his life, so let's take a look at this. In 5th grade, Objective 2, and this is found in Standard 5, we're going to look at this particular standard right here. Two of them, this particular objective, identify major social movements of the 20th century, including the Civil Rights Movement, and identify leaders of those movements. So I'm going to just grab this and kind of use this as my example. So I'll just kind of copy this so I can save some time. And I'm going to come back to my Weebly page, and I'm going to put some of this in my lesson plan. So my lesson plan, for time's sake, we'll just call it Martin Luther King Jr. And I'm going to start by putting in my summary. Now all of this material is in the handout, so I'm not going to take all the time to go through and document every last thing that we have in here just because I don't have the time. But I wanted you to see how I'd go about doing a little of this. Okay. I'll grab the rest of my lesson plan and I'll just kind of do a little quick copy and paste on this so that I can have it. But you can see right now I'm including the actual lesson, including background and all the other things that I listed in the handout that I would need for this lesson. So I'm just going to grab all those elements and put those into my little lesson plan here. So we'll turn off. It looks like I've got we'll paste those in there. Okay. So you can see now I've got more or less my lesson plan clearly identified with all of those categories that I want. At the bottom of this, I'm going to do 2 additional links though. I need 2 other areas that I'm going to put in to link to the other pages that I'm going to have. The first idea that I'm going to have here is my student assignment. So I'm going to put a link in here for my student activity. Now that link doesn't actually go anywhere yet. So let's just save this, and then I'm going to make a brand new page where I'll put in my student activity. Okay, so we'll just kind of exit out of this and we'll make sure that I get all that information. Now you remember that all information in Weebly is automatically saved, so I'll be able to come back to this in just a minute. But first let's make that second page. So in this we're going to go in and make another new page. And this time, I'm going to have this be my famous person in history activity. And this is what I'm calling my activity, dealing with some facts surrounding Dr. King. But here's something I'm going to do that's a little different. I'm not going to put this in my navigation. The difference will be now when you look across the top of my screen, you'll see Project 1, but you won't see the link to famous person in history. I'm going to embed this actually on the page of my lesson plan. So let's go ahead and show that. First I'll create this page. So I'm going to click the Edit Page option, and that brings it open. It's completely blank. And I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to grab some of the text for this. Let's see if we got that. I don't know if we did. Try one more time. Maybe I'll go back off that for a second. That didn't seem to want to work. Okay. I'll drag that in one more time. There we go. And I've already, again, I've kind of put this together in advance. I'm doing a little GPS activity where you're going to go out and find clues about Dr. King, and then the kids will come back to class to reflect upon it in their activities. So I've just gone and grabbed all that information. I'm going to paste that right in here. So that's the student activity that they're going to engage in. Okay. So we've put all that information into my lesson now. And again, I'm copying and pasting this. You'll have to create this yourselves. Okay. Now, the next step that I need is pretty important here. I've got to go back to my lesson plan page, or the Project 1 page. And on this particular page, let's see, it's having a little trouble here. Let me see if I have to close this and reload it. It might just take me a second. Sorry about that. You can see it happens to everybody, right? Okay. So I'm going to come back to my Project 1 page, and on this page I'm going to go back to Edit Mode. Okay, come back into the text that I've got down here. I'm going to link to my student activity. That's a big part of my class. So I'm going to put in a nice link here and see what it says. It gives me options. What am I linking to? Well, I want to link to the famous person in history page where I put the details for that activity for the students. And that now has become a link. So I've got my lesson plan, I've got my link to my student activity, we've got one more thing that we're going to link to, and if we actually go to that page, again, if we go to Pages and Famous Person in History, this is where I can edit that page. So there you go. You can see I just have a little editing I've got to do up there. So we'll just take out, let's see, I'll just change this title real quick and put that up there. Okay, so now I've got it kind of set out the way that I want. The last thing that I've got to do here is I've got to share my personal reflections. It's kind of that communication strategy. We're going to have the kids sharing their ideas in a blog. So I've already got my little blog that I started in class the other day. I'm going to do a link out to it. So first I'll pull open that blog page, and I need to make a new entry on this where I can ask the kids to reflect upon their activity. So you can see I would just go in and have them do some reflection in here. So they will not finish this prompt, but you can see what was important about Martin Luther King Jr. in the Civil Rights Movement. Share an example from our lesson. So a little self-reflection. Okay, so I'll publish that to my blog post, to my blog. Now I want students to come in and actually do this little assignment, so I'm going to link right to this one page. If I click directly on that, now I've got the link, instead of to the whole blog, it's just to that one entry. I'll copy that, and as I come back into Weebly, I'll highlight the word blog and put in a link, but this time it's not to another page, it's to another website. So I'll actually paste in that link to the Famous Person in History blog post. I like to check the box Open Link in a new window, just so when they click on it, it opens up a new tab instead of taking them away from my website. So two things are kind of open. So notice, there we go. I've more or less got that lesson plan part 1 done. So that's the project part of the lesson plan. Part 2 is where you'll do a little reflective analysis. And there are 3 different questions that you're asked to address in your reflection. Now, you'll see in the handout that I mentioned that you could either reflect just in WebCT, or you could reflect on your website. I'm just going to show you, if I choose to reflect on my website, how I'll go about doing that. Again, I'm going to go back up to the Pages tab, and I'll make a new page. And this will be called Reflection on Project 1. Again, I don't want this to show up in the navigation menu, so I'll say no to that, and I will edit that page and simply paste in, again, in interest of time, I won't go through and type in my responses, but I could just paste in the content there. Okay, you would go through and type in your content. After you've finished with this page, we need to go back to our Project 1 page and put a link to this. So let's just go in and put it in that link. Down at the bottom, I'm going to do something kind of interesting here. I'm going to put in a 2-column layout real quick, and we are going to put in a paragraph in which I link to this assignment. So 1 second here while I go ahead and do this. Oh, we'll cancel that. Okay, I'm going to pull a paragraph right in here and put in my reflection. So I'll put a little link to Reflection on Project 1. And you can see I can now link to that and link that to my other page. Reflection on Project 1. Now that I've put that 2-column table in, I'll actually just copy and paste this down here just to give it a little bit more style. So you can see how I've got all of those elements put together. So now I've got the 2 parts of my Project 1 assignment completed. I hope this video has given you some ideas. Well, remember, we'll have a little bit more time to work on this in class. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. But hopefully this gave you a good starting point. Thanks for watching, everyone.